What is up, everyone? Good afternoon. Welcome to another edition of The Danny Show. I'm your host, Daniel Cody, and this is where I give commentary and reviews on all things wrestling. And if you haven't seen it already, be sure to check out my review on the Royal Rumble from last night. I did my best to cover all of the grounds the best way I could. I really enjoyed the Royal Rumble last night. It was awesome. The only thing I'm mad about is that they eliminated Melina and Kofi Kingston quickly. I'm mad about those two. Everything else was perfect. A lot of shockers, especially with Roman Reigns going back with Paul Heyman. That was a shock. But let's get down to another reason we're here. One of the wrestlers from last night, Becky Lynch. Today is the day of the man, the Irish Lass Kicker, and Big Time Bex. Becky Lynch, today is her birthday. I don't know how young she is, but it doesn't matter. Let's get on with our top 10 reviews as we review my top picks for Becky Lynch. At number 10, we have her performance from Royal Rumble 2019. Like Brock Lesnar, Becky Lynch had lost a match earlier that night to Asuka via tap out. Of course, Brock didn't tap out last night. He was screwed and betrayed by Paul Heyman. Traitor! But either way, I did that last night also. But either way, um, Becky Lynch had lost earlier, just like Brock did last night. But Becky Lynch redeemed herself as Brock did last night, winning the Royal Rumble and taking Lana's spot. And she last eliminated Charlotte Flair to ensure herself a championship match at WrestleMania 35. At number 9, we have Becky Lynch versus Piper Niven. I like to call her Piper instead of Dewdrop because that name is a little strange to me, with all due respect. But Piper Niven from last night's Royal Rumble match. I did like that match. It was pretty interesting. It's a miracle Becky is not flattened like Roadkill from that cartoon show on Boomerang. But nonetheless, Becky Lynch always finds a way to win because when the disarmor didn't work and the crossbar didn't work, she used the pump handle slam, which is just like the rock bottom, from the second rope onto the ground for the 1, 2, 3. And I will say, Ronda versus Becky, WrestleMania. I'm calling it and I'm betting on it. But nonetheless, good match. At number 8, we have Extreme Rules Tag Team Match, winner take all, with the couple Becky Lynch and Seth Rollins versus Happy Corbin, who got his last night, thankfully, and Lacey Evans. And I will say this in humor before we go any further. Becky Lynch and Lacey had a great rivalry in 2019 after WrestleMania. But don't rub your musty underarms and then throw it on Becky's face. Otherwise, she'll turn it into a mandible claw and make you swallow it. Just kidding. But either way, great rivalry between those two, but don't wipe your nasty underarms. And now that's what you call nasties, Lacey. But either way, I don't know what smells worse. Lacey having bad underarms or Charlotte's foot, according to Sasha Banks. Odors. Let's stop talking about odors and get into the match. Great match at Extreme Rules. Seth Rollins and Becky Lynch were the power couple of Monday Night Raw, with Seth being the Raw Universal Champion and Becky Lynch being the Raw Women's Champion. And it was a winner take all intergenders match, and I really enjoyed it. Now, Seth Rollins snapped when Corbin put the end of days on Becky Lynch, which I was shocked by because I thought you guys stopped doing that in the PG era. But nonetheless, Corbin got a good caning for it, and Seth won it for the team. Even though Brock came and cashed in later, the fact that Becky Lynch and Seth Rollins won the tag team intergender Extreme Rules match makes this one of my picks for their match on this list for Becky Lynch. Moving on to number 7, we have SummerSlam 2018. Now, I know what you're thinking. Carmella was the champion defending against Charlotte Flair and Becky Lynch. And it was a night that Charlotte would win the match, putting the natural selection on Becky Lynch for the 1, 2, 3. Charlotte's the new SmackDown Women's Champion. Why is that match on this countdown? Because it is the aftermath of that match that set the tone for the Becky we all know today. I find it very ironic that Becky Lynch and Stone Cold Steve Austin will be sitting down on the Broken Skull interview podcast because both of them give the same vibes. Back in 1997, Stone Cold was supposed to be the heel you love to hate, but no matter what he did, everyone started to love him more because people like rebels, and that's what Becky Lynch was. And it reminded me so much of Stone Cold Steve Austin 20 years prior to Becky Lynch. When she attacked Charlotte at the end of that match, it was supposed to turn her heel, but fans ended up loving her more for that. And that was a historic moment that set the tone, like I said, for the Becky Lynch we see now. Moving on to number 6, another SummerSlam moment 1 year later, an incredible submission match to open SummerSlam 2019. Natalya versus Becky Lynch in Toronto. Home country Canada for Natalya, but it was an incredible submission match to start the show as they stole each other's submissions and used their own as well. It was great. We saw it all. They held nothing back. It was almost 4 to 5 stars in my personal opinion. And you couldn't ask for a better opening to SummerSlam in 2019. And also, I covered SummerSlam 2019 last summer in a review from the past. But either way, great, excellent match. If you want to see me get deep into calling this, check out SummerSlam 2019 review. It's also on my channel from last summer. I think you'll enjoy it. But like I said, great, excellent match. Ironically, Becky started the show victorious, and her husband Seth, freaking Rollins, ended the show victoriously. Moving on to number 5, Becky Lynch versus Liv Morgan at day 1 of this year. Also, another pay-per-view that I reviewed and covered. And if you want to get more in-depth into this match, be sure to check that out if you haven't already. But I really enjoyed that match between those two, as I also enjoyed their rivalry together. As Trish Stratus and Lita did on Raw Monday, December 9th, many years later, Becky Lynch and Liv main evented Raw on a December 9th of a Monday. Interesting and ironic. But I really enjoyed the match from day one. And I love the push, I must say, by Liv Morgan, who had a great showing last night, as I said, at the Royal Rumble 2022. If you want me to get more in depth about that, check out last night's review of Royal Rumble 22. I really enjoyed Royal Rumble and day 1, partly because of this match. Moving on, another Royal Rumble match, we have Becky Lynch versus Asuka at number 4. This match took place at Royal Rumble 2020 before everything went down. And crazy part about it was Royal Rumble 2020 was a pretty good Royal Rumble. It was a very bittersweet Royal Rumble because we lost an amazing basketball player that year, and couple of months later, we are in a crisis that in many ways we're still affected by now. But either way, moving on, not going to talk about that. It was an amazing night. It was a bittersweet night, but it was an amazing night. And one of the things that happened was that Becky Lynch finally got redemption by defeating Asuka by submission. The previous year, as I covered at the beginning of the review, Becky tapped out to Asuka. This year, the tables were turned and Asuka tapped out to Becky's disarmor after accidentally spitting miss on herself when she was trying to get it onto Becky Lynch. Great match. Check it out. Royal Rumble 2020 at number 4. At number 3, we have Becky Lynch versus Charlotte Flair at Survivor Series last year. Now, let me just say this. Becky Lynch and Charlotte Flair have had an amazing rivalry together. It was just amazing. It started with Becky Lynch supposed heel turn, which was actually very, very popular amongst fans in 2018 SummerSlam. But this match from Survivor Series of last year, SmackDown versus Raw, I really enjoyed that. And I covered Survivor Series last year. So if you haven't seen my review on that, be sure to check that out. And I will go deeper in depth into the match of Charlotte Flair versus Becky Lynch. But I really enjoyed it. It was great highlights. Even though Becky Lynch out-cheated Charlotte, one cheater out-cheated the other. I'll just say that. But the match was awesome. And I really can't wait to see the interview with Stone Cold and Becky Lynch because I really want to know what the deal was and how did they get to despising each other? Do they despise each other on screen or is it just one of those Bret Hart, Shawn Michaels things where they despise each other in the ring and in real life? I don't know, but I would like to check that out and get more info. But until then, just know that match was awesome to me. Of course, at number 2, we have another WWE member of the Horsewomen, Becky Lynch versus the Boss Sasha Banks at Hell in a Cell 2019. It was great. I really enjoyed the match. Sasha had recently made a return a couple of months prior and made a shocking heel turn, attacking Natalya and rediscovering herself with the new look and the blue hair. Now she's blue, not in a sad way, but it brought out another side of Sasha that was very vicious. And she brought that viciousness to Hell in a Cell. And I have to say, I really enjoyed that match. I enjoyed everything about it. A lot of close calls, a lot of 2 counts. Match was amazing. But in the end, it was the disarmor submission with the chair that makes Sasha tap out and Becky Lynch retains her Raw Women's Championship. Let's get on to number 1. You cannot talk about Becky Lynch without mentioning her in the first ever women's triple threat match to main event WrestleMania 35. You can't. You just can't. And that match was amazing. At the time, Becky was everyone's favorite, and Charlotte and Ronda were heels. The fans turned Ronda heel, but yesterday, apparently she's back to face because when she came out, the roof exploded, and I was excited too. So it was originally supposed to be Ronda versus Becky, but somehow or another, Charlotte got herself in the mix, and we got ourselves a triple threat match. And for the first time ever, women main evented a WrestleMania. So that was a huge milestone, and it was the first time that Becky would win a main event match and become Becky 2 belts. So it was an amazing match where she rolled up Charlotte. But even though today is Becky's birthday, I have to be honest. A couple of years ago when Becky Lynch won the Royal, she came to Ronda Rousey and said, I choose you. I guarantee you, if not tomorrow, and you know what? I'm just going ahead and bet it. Here's the bet. If I'm right, y'all got to come back and give me a thumbs up for this. You can go on ahead and like and subscribe now. But if I'm right, y'all got to give me a thumbs up on this. But here's the thing. Tomorrow on Monday Night Raw, I'm calling it. Becky Lynch will be chosen by Ronda Rousey. As Becky told Ronda, I choose you. Ronda is going to do the exact same thing tomorrow and go to Becky and say, Becky, I choose you. And we're going to get that one-on-one match. We all know that Ronda is going to eventually choose Becky Lynch because we need that match that we did not get to see. We need that one-on-one match. But I'm calling it right now. Tomorrow, Ronda will choose Becky. Not next week, not in a couple of months. I'm calling it tomorrow. And if I get this bet right, you gotta like. You gotta give a thumbs up. You can give a thumbs up ahead of time. But that's my bet. Tomorrow. That's my bet. Ronda chooses Becky immediately tomorrow. That's my bet. But either way, what do you think of today's review of Becky Lynch? What are your favorite matches from The Man? Let me know in the comment section below. I'm your host, Daniel Cody. That's all the time I have for you today. And I'll be back with another review on all things wrestling. Peace.